National collapse begins in the halls of authority, when the law itself is weaponized by the very judges appointed to uphold it. The book of Isaiah captures the mechanics of this decay. Chapter 10, verse 2 states, "Woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees, and that write grievousness which they have prescribed." These unrighteous decrees are engineered systems. Lawmakers deliberately draft legislation that protects the wealth of the elite while legally permitting them to exploit the poor. Isaiah chapter 10, verse 2 states, "To turn aside the needy from judgment, and to take away the right from the poor of my people, that widows may be their prey, and that they may rob the fatherless." Systemic predation targets the most vulnerable members of society. These laws are specifically designed to siphon property and resources from widows and orphans. Judges occupy an office ordained to protect those without power. When they exploit the people they are sworn to defend, they commit an ultimate betrayal. The victims, trapped beneath these stone decrees, have zero possibility of legal redress, sealing the nation's spiritual fate. When the architecture of a justice system is weaponized against its weakest citizens, the society becomes spiritually bankrupt and defenseless against divine retribution. Against this backdrop of physical security, Isaiah chapter 10, verse 3 states, "And what will ye do in the day of visitation, and in the desolation which shall come from far? To whom will ye flee for help, and where will ye leave your glory?" The text directly challenges the elite, forcing them to consider where their hoarded wealth will go when a day of visitation arrives from afar. Isaiah chapter 10, verse 4 states, "Without me they shall bow down under the prisoners, and they shall fall under the slain. For all this his anger is not turned away, but his hand is stretched out still." Systemic wickedness has compromised the nation's security. With the withdrawal of divine protection, the only remaining outcomes are captivity or death. This is the fourth time God repeats the warning. For all this, his anger is not turned away. It follows prior indictments against the nation's pride and its internal fighting. Domestic wealth and corrupt authority offer no physical protection once the threshold for divine anger has been crossed. The geographic focus now shifts from the domestic courts of Israel to the gathering threat of the Assyrian war machine. Isaiah chapter 10, verse 5 states, "O Assyrian, the rod of mine anger, and the staff in their hand is mine indignation." God identifies the ruthless Assyrian Empire as the literal rod of mine anger, making this pagan force the physical instrument of divine judgment. This follows a biblical pattern where God uses expansionist human empires, like Babylon, Persia, and Rome, as geopolitical tools to judge corrupt nations. The Assyrian military was historically unmatched in its efficiency and brutality, possessing the exact capabilities required for complete desolation. Geopolitical shifts and the rise of vicious empires can be direct responses to the systemic spiritual failures of the surrounding nations. Isaiah chapter 10, verse 6 states, "I will send him against an hypocritical nation, and against the people of my wrath will I give him a charge, to take the spoil and to take the prey, and to tread them down like the mire of the streets." The text identifies the target of the Assyrian invasion as Israel, explicitly labeled here as a hypocritical nation. Hypocrisy functions through a specific spiritual mechanic, passing judgment and condemning others for the exact sins you are actively committing yourself. By judging another, an individual proves they possess knowledge of the law. This removes any defense of ignorance when they proceed to break that same law themselves. Israel's leaders used their positions to enforce strict laws against the poor, while they openly violated the fundamental principles of justice. The prescribed physical punishment for this hypocrisy is total. Tiglath-Pileser's forces are charged to spoil the nation, prey upon its people, and tread them down like mire in the streets. Hypocrisy functions as a self-activating legal trap that demands the ultimate penalty of absolute desolation. While Assyria acts as an instrument of judgment, the empire operates under an illusion of supreme autonomy. Isaiah chapter 10, verse 7 states, "Howbeit he meaneth not so, neither doth his heart think so, but it is in his heart to destroy and cut off nations not a few." This creates a geopolitical paradox. The Assyrian king meaneth not so. He is completely unaware that he is a tool in the hand of a higher power. The king's motivation is purely imperial expansion, focused on violent destruction. Isaiah chapter 10, verse 8 states, "For he saith, Are not my princes altogether kings?" He boasts his military princes wield power equivalent to the kings of the nations they destroy. Great empires often operate under a delusion of total independence, blind to the fact that their conquests are the scheduled outworking of divine judgment. Isaiah chapter 10 verse 9 states, "Is not Calno as Carchemish? Is not Hamath as Arpad? Is not Samaria as Damascus?" The cities of Calno, Carchemish, Hamath, and Arpad have all fallen to the Assyrian military. These victories fueled his strategic calculus. No force could stop his expansion. This logic targets Israel. Since Damascus has fallen, he assumes Samaria will be just as easily crushed. History verifies this prophecy. The ruthless Assyrian military successfully marched upon and completely devastated Israel, exactly as this strategic calculus had suggested. The spiritual rot that began the moment corrupt judges wrote their first unrighteous decrees finally manifested as the Assyrian army crossing the border. National security relies entirely on righteous justice. When the law is used to oppress the vulnerable, the nation summons its own desolation from afar.